Howie didn't think I could push the button. Anyway, would you please join me in a moment of silence for those addicts that are still suffering? And the journey of prayer, please. God, grant us serenity to accept the things that cannot change, courage to change the things that can, and wisdom to know the difference. We have some suggested readings in NA. I've asked some people to read, so if they could come up here and queue up for me, please, so that we can move through this a little bit quicker. So first from Oakville, reading Who is an Addict en Français. Please welcome Terry Ann.
Terry Ann Addict ou dépendante. Qui est dépendant ou dépendante? La plupart d'entre nous ne se posent pas deux fois la question. Nous le savons. Notre vie entière et toutes nos pensées étaient centrées sur la drogue sous une forme ou une autre. Sans procurer, en consommer et chercher les moyens pour en obtenir davantage. Nous consommions pour vivre et vivions pour consommer. Un dépendant est tout simplement un homme ou une femme dont la vie est dominée par la drogue. Nous sommes des personnes sous l'emprise d'une maladie continuelle et progressive qui finissent toujours de la même manière en prison, à l'hôpital ou à la mort.
We're on a serious low budget. We're sharing readers back here. And what is the NA program? Jennifer M. from Nova Scotia.
Oh, wonderful. I'm Jennifer and I'm an addict. What is the Narcotics Anonymous program? NA is a non-profit fellowship or society of men and women for whom drugs have become a major problem. We are recovering addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. This is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. There is only one requirement for membership: the desire to stop using. We suggest that you keep an open mind and give yourself a break. Our program is a set of principles written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. The most important thing about them is that they work. There are no strings attached to NA. We are not affiliated with any other organizations. We have no initiation fees or dues, no pledges to sign, no promises to make to anyone. We are not connected with any political, religious, or law enforcement groups and are under no surveillance at any time. Anyone may join us, regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. We are not interested in what or how much you've used or who your connections were, what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. The newcomer is the most important person at any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. We have learned from our group experience that those who keep coming to our meetings regularly stay clean.
So, since the last reading, 3 of us are now sharing these readers. Hi, Budget. And another reader from Nova Scotia, Denise S.
From Denise, I'm an addict. Why are we here? Before coming to the fellowship of NA, we could not manage our own lives. We could not live and enjoy life as other people do. We had to have something different, and we thought we had found it in drugs. We placed the use ahead of the welfare of our families, our wives, husbands, and our children. We had to have drugs at all costs. We did many people great harm, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. Through our inability to accept personal responsibilities, we were actually creating our own problems. We seemed to be incapable of facing life on its own terms. Most of us realized that in our addiction we were slowly committing suicide. But addiction is such a cunning enemy of life that we had lost the power to do anything about it. Many of us ended up in jail or sought help through medicine, religion, and psychiatry. None of these methods was sufficient for us. Our disease always resurfaced or continued to progress until in desperation we sought help from each other in Narcotics Anonymous. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people. We suffered from a disease for which there is no known cure. It can, however, be arrested at some point and recovery is then possible.
And all the way from British Columbia, James B.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for all the work that the committee has done to put this together. How it works: if you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made a recovery possible. 1, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives could become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted God to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and practice these principles in all our affairs. This sounds like a big order and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember each other. There's one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, kindness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic. For the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is so parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand and help another addict. We believe that the sooner we face our problems within society and everyday living, is that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first step. If you are like us, you know that one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form, or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol is different from other drugs that cause a great many addicts to relapse. Before we came to NA, many of us treat alcohol separately, and we cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug. We are people with the disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover.
Thank you, James. And from Sarnia, reading proposition, Terry Lynn.
Hi, I'm Terry Lynn. I'm an addict. There's 12 conditions of NA. We keep what we have only with vigilance. And just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our traditions. As long as the ties that banded together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority.
A loving God as He may express Himself in our Greek conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6. An NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert it from its primary purpose. 7. Every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Narcotics Anonymous has no opinions on outside issues, hence the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. And 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Understanding these traditions comes slowly over a period of time. We pick up information as we talk to members and visit various groups. It usually isn't until we get involved with service that someone points out that personal recovery depends on NA unity, and that unity depends on how well we follow our traditions. The 12 traditions of NA are not negotiable. They are the guidelines that keep our fellowship alive and free. By following these guidelines in our dealings with others and society at large, we avoid many problems. That is not to say that our traditions eliminate all problems. We still have to face difficulties as they arise. Communication problems, differences of opinions, internal controversies, and troubles with individuals and groups outside the fellowship. However, when we apply these principles, we avoid some of the pitfalls. Many of our problems are like those that our predecessors had to face. Their hard-won experience gave birth to the traditions, and our own experience has shown that these principles are just as valid today as they were when these traditions were formulated. Our traditions protect us from the internal and external forces that could destroy us. They are truly the ties that bind us together. It is only through understanding and application that they work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So did I mention that we're streaming this live? Do you know that addicts anywhere in the world could listen to this meeting tonight? Have you let them know yet? We're watching those numbers climb over there. Let's get that message out. So, we have a speaker tonight. He's not really sure what I'm going to say about him. But neither am I. Let's see. I do have some good stuff, though. I met the speaker. Well, it's not a secret. His name's Steve. Speaker Steve. Probably like 14 years ago or something like that, when he begged me to sponsor him. Sorry, Steve. They don't find it funny. It's not true either. But you know, he knows my silly sense of humor. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got to do some service together, and over the years, traveled some places. He's watched with amazement as I've babbled in different kind of workshops and things like that. True. But I've watched him babble too. We've worked really well together on world conventions in the past, and got to work here this week. He's a friend. Please. Yeah. So far, he's a friend. He's a hardcore NA member. I won't tell you what he does for a living. He can tell you if he wants. But it's kind of cool. And You know, we on some of those trips, I know he's listened to me whine a couple of times. I'm thinking of one in Florida. Do you remember that? Because I whine, but I don't anymore, right, Steve? No. Anyway, I think that you're going to enjoy this year, or Steve's going to give you your money back. Every one of you in American dollars. So you might be able to make some money out of this. Let me introduce you to my friend, Steve Ott from California.
Stay off your phone.
Je suis dépendant, mon Steve. And that's all the French you're going to get out of me tonight. My name is Stephen Manatic. Paul's got a great sense of humor, and I will not be giving anybody their money back. So save your complaints for your sponsor. My wife is listening. I love my wife. Now wait a minute. Even if my wife wasn't listening, I would still love my wife. I'm from Los Angeles. My wife is at home in LA right now, and I'm here. And I'm grateful to be here. It's an honor to be asked to speak. A woman I used to know used to say getting asked to speak is like getting asked to be married. She said, I don't want to get married, I just want to get asked. And getting asked to speak is a lot like that. Her name was Dot Talley. She's gone now, but she was one of the first NA members in Pittsburgh where I got clean. And I love that saying because it really kind of fits. You know, it's an honor. It makes you, it makes you feel all tingly inside when somebody's asks you to do it. And then, of course, as that moment approaches, the weight of the responsibility begins to get heavier and heavier. And it's a wonderful honor, but it's a deep responsibility. And one that I try not to take lightly. I try to enjoy myself with it because, it's the adventure. And it changes color. In case you didn't notice. Some of us, by the way, are colorblind. If you're colorblind, raise your hand. There you go. There's a few of us in here that are colorblind. We don't know what colors they are, but we know it's changing, right? Yeah. So they make colorblind glasses, and I was asked if I wanted to actually begin to wear colorblind glasses so I could see colors like you do. And of course, I didn't want the colorblind. What's the use, right? Yeah, what's the use? I don't want the colorblind glasses. Anyways, that's a colorblind joke. You gotta be colorblind. I've been here since Sunday. I've been here since Sunday. I came in to be present for the CANA meeting, the Canadian Assembly of Narcotics Anonymous, the committee that's responsible for this event, the oversight of this event. They're a zonal forum that spans the country of Canada from coast to coast to coast. And they're responsible for some really, really great service that goes on behind the scenes that supports your groups and helps members find Narcotics Anonymous, helps members find your home group. They did a national, and this is a plug for them. And if I'm not a member of the committee, so I can do a shameless plug, and then not be shameless. And They did a national public service announcement campaign last year and aired these television PSAs across the country. I don't know, 1,000, something like that. They're the committee that's responsible for the toll-free number that anywhere in Canada you pick up the phone and you can find out where your home group is. And you know who calls helplines, right? I haven't called a helpline in a while, but newcomers call helplines. And they're that resource to help newcomers find your meeting. And they operate a website that again provides information about Narcotics Anonymous and helps members find your home group. So I appreciate the work that they do. Like so much of the service work that goes on in Narcotics Anonymous, it's not something that a lot of people see a lot of. But because I don't know about you, but I'm not up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch those PSAs anymore. There was a time when 3 o'clock in the morning was me. A backgammon. I had this backgammon board, and I would play backgammon by myself. And I would have the television on in the background, and doing the thing that we do, and I'd always forget whose turn it was, and get really frustrated. Have to start the game all over again. I'm telling you. I play backgammon occasionally, usually not 3 o'clock in the morning, and never with the TV on anymore. But they do those kind of things. So thanks to Canna for hosting this event. Thanks for asking me to speak tonight, and thanks for all the work that you do on behalf of the addicts across the fellowship to help the newcomers. Thanks. How much time do I got? 5 minutes. Okay, thanks. I was bad, I got clean, I found NA, it got better, and now it's good. Thanks. It was bad. I mean, it was bad. When I started, it was, I was thinking about the theme of the convention, the adventure. And when I was like 12, 13 years old, change its color in case you weren't paying attention. When I can see it out of the corner of my eye every once in a while. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I started getting high with my cousin Danny. My cousin Danny, we got this quart of Wellwood contact cement. It's construction adhesive, and we poured the glue into these brown paper bags, and we put the bags on our face, and we inhaled the vapors until we were unconscious. That was an adventure. It was an adventure. I like to say it wasn't a social experience. I wasn't a social glue sniffer, but it was an adventure. And, we got the glue all over ourselves, and, that stuff would make you hallucinate in ways that was, it made other hallucinogens not seem hallucinogenic. Anyways, and as I moved through those years, I really felt like I was trying to exercise an adventure. I was willing, when it came to drugs, there were two things. I was fearless. I never met a drug I didn't do. I never said, oh no, I'm not doing that one. You may have had that kind of, illusion going on, but I didn't. I never met a drug I didn't like. And I don't recall ever turning down a drug. I always felt like, more is better. Some is good, more is better, and too much, that's just right. That was my motto. And, I didn't say that back then, but that, when you look at the way I use, that's what my behavior said. And, as life went on, it became less and less an adventure. One of the things that my first wife and I used to do, my last wife, not the current wife, my last wife used to do. I'm on wife number 2. By the way, if you're on wife number 3 and it's the same as wife number 1, you're probably an addict. It'll be different this time, get it? Yeah, okay. Before we were married, my first wife and I, one of the things that we would do is we would pack up the 1971 Ford Pinto station wagon with all of our camping gear, and we would head north from Pittsburgh. And if you head north from Pittsburgh, you know where you hit Toronto. And then we would go further up and up to Mont Tremblant or over to Algonquin, or maybe if I had a really big bag, we would head towards New Brunswick and maybe even Nova Scotia. Because I always planned my mileage around my bag, around my stash, and because you can only go so far. And of course, what always happened, on the way out of town, I was generous, I was giving, there was an abundance that existed on the way out of town. And, and then inevitably, I would run out 3 days before it was time to come back. And you heard how much French I speak. Imagine me in northern Quebec on the morning when it runs out. And I don't speak French, and many of the people in Quebec either pretend like they don't speak English or really don't. In any case, I would find myself in front, where I would go, because I knew where you guys were, where I would go is to the liquor store. And in the morning, and I would wait for you. It would be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd drag Diane, my ex-wife, out of bed, would pack up the camping gear, and, I'd make some excuse, but we'd be sitting in front of wherever they sell liquor, because I knew one of you guys would show up. And, and I'd see the other, the liquid folks would show up, and, I'd let them come and go, but I knew you when I saw you. And, that's another thing about addicts. It's a wonderful thing about addicts. We can identify each other. We see each other and we know who we are. Almost anywhere on the globe, except for Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, everybody looks like an addict. Something to keep in mind. Well, hopefully not. But anyways, so, I'd wait for you. And, and it's kind of funny now. I mean, it was desperate and pitiful back then. And then there would be that miserable ride home. And the last day, it was always 1,200 miles going 80 miles an hour to whatever time. Now, whether I had to roll in at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I didn't care, because I could always find something once I got back to my neighborhood. Back to, where the length of my leash would usually keep me hostage, And again, as my using days progressed, the adventure in my life continued to lessen and lessen, and the desperation and the degradation and the inability to meet my responsibilities as a husband, as a parent, as a son, diminished, and it just kept getting worse. I got a couple of stories, and I'm just, I was talking to Clay before the meeting, and he said, "You tell stories," and I realized I got a library of stories. I have some stories I tell, so I'm going to tell this. And if you heard it before, I apologize. So I lived in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh isn't Toronto. It's not Calgary, but we have winter in Pittsburgh. We have more of a winter in Pittsburgh than they have in Los Angeles. That's for sure. Winter in Los Angeles is like 50 degrees, and people are like putting on major winter wear to deal with the 50 degrees. Anyways, it was winter in Pittsburgh. Was the last winter that I used, winter of 85-86. I've been clean since August 3rd in 1986, by the way. 30 years clean in Narcotics Anonymous. And I am so grateful for the people who came before me and had meetings open for me to come to. But that last winter, before I even had heard about Narcotics Anonymous, I was married to Diane at the time, and for the last couple of years of my using, it was desperate, despicable. It was miserable. It was just miserable. There was no adventure going on. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't keep a car. I couldn't keep money in my pocket. And I had trouble keeping the sick off. And I did. I wrecked a car that winter. Nothing new. I wrecked every car I wrecked every car I ever owned up until that point. And 15 of them or something like that. My son and I sat down one time and got 15 of them, I think it was. Anyway, I wrecked my car, and I went out a week later. I took my wife's car, and I wrecked her car. It was always the same scenario. I'd go to cop, and I don't know about you, but when the chemical was present, I used. I didn't wait. I wasn't taking the chance that something might happen between now and then. And I was getting it in me. And so I'd go, I'd cop, and I'd use, and then I'd try and make my way home. And sometimes I made it, and sometimes I didn't. So I took my wife's car out, and much to her chagrin, and on the way back, I crashed her car into a telephone pole, and ended up in the emergency. Anyways, they called my wife. They told her to come and get me. She said, "Keep them." And I had a half a $5 bill in my pocket, and they called me a taxi. And this taxi came, and I had blood. I had facial wounds. They had to stitch up. So I had blood all over the front of me. And I remember handing this taxi cab driver this half a $5 bill, and said, "Take me." Not home. Don't take me home. I said, take me back to the car. Because before the cops got to the accident scene, I had stashed my shit underneath the front seat. And I don't know about you guys, but as long as the chemical was available, I used. And I wasn't leaving that stash overnight. I was going to get it because I wasn't done. But that ain't the story. The story is that I finished that off. And a couple of days later, it came time to, I needed more. I needed to re-up, as we say. We didn't use that term back then. And I had run out of cars. I didn't have any cars left, and it was wintertime. It was cold. It wasn't Toronto cold, but it was cold. And I lined up a purchase, but I didn't have the means to get there. And at one time, they used to deliver to me. One time, I had good credit. I used to work in restaurants, and people would be bringing in the lettuce, they'd be bringing in the roast beef, and bringing in the cocaine. And it was, it was just another delivery that day. And but those days were long gone, and so I needed to go cop. And I had an idea. I lived on an old remnant of a farm, this old farmhouse, this acre of ground that was left. And when I moved in there into this old farm, my brother-in-law gave me this old beat-up garden tractor, and old Sears 15-horsepower garden tractor, and one headlight was kind of hanging off, and the muffler was shot, and I thought, I wonder I hadn't had it running all winter, and because you don't cut the grass in the wintertime, and so let me just give it a try. And so I put my winter coat on, and I went out in the garage and fired that mother up. And so I don't know what the roads are here, but it's a main 2-lane highway in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm tooling down this highway on my garden tractor. 3 miles an hour, and I got about 25 cousins back there. I got a lot of family back there, and I got one cousin. His name is Ricky, and Ricky was driving his black pickup truck that day, and he pulled over on the side of the road, and he said, "Steve, what the hell are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to cop. You want to come?" What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm doing what I got to do today. And the best part of that story, from my perspective, anyways, the best part of that story, the connection's name was John. John had this split-level house in this quiet suburban community, keeping a really low profile, and it wasn't like I was going to the, to the project or something. I was heading into suburbia on my Sears tractor, and I come tooling in on his front yard in February with the headlight and the muffler and he walked out of his front door, and I'll never forget the look of disgust and disbelief on his face. What the hell are you doing? I was completely indifferent to the situation. I was just happy I had arrived, and can we get down to business? And we did, and I stayed way too long, and I really don't even remember driving that tractor home. I used to tell that story a lot. That's the end of the story, by the way. I used to tell that story a lot, and I was telling to a guy one time. There's a penitentiary in Pittsburgh, Western Penitentiary, which is a state penitentiary, and a guy came up to me after the meeting, and he said, if you was half a dope fiend I was, you'd have stole that damn tractor, and you got one in the car. It's an interesting point, and then I was telling the story one night, and a guy from Wisconsin, John was his name, John from Wisconsin, came up to me and he said, "You know what, Stephen, in Wisconsin, everybody cops on a tractor. No big deal." Okay, I do fit in somewhere. It's nice to fit in. I've got other funny stories. I took a lie detector test one time after consuming a half a gram of cocaine. I don't know if you've ever taken a lie detector test. They hook you up to a blood pressure cuff, a heart monitor, and a sweat monitor, and start asking you questions. After they could have asked me what color is the sky, and I would have probably failed. But that was another bright idea I had one day. There's one thing about me that I know now that I didn't know then, and I learned through Narcotics Anonymous. It took me a long time. But I know this now. Nobody believes my bullshit like I believe my bullshit. I had no problem getting on a tractor and going down the road. I had no problem taking a lie detector test after consuming a half gram of cocaine. I had no problem putting the lives of my children in jeopardy on a regular basis because it was going to be okay. It'll be okay. This will be the last time I do this. I'll never take him here again. I won't leave him alone. I'm not going to use this much tomorrow. All of those lies, I'll be back in a minute. Oh, here's a good one. I'll sell 5 and keep 2. Right? Yeah. I believe that one every time. And I'd go home, lock the door, pull down the blinds, take the phone off the hook, and wonder why I came up short. I believe my own lies, one of the things that I know about Narcotics Anonymous is the essence of step one is, I mean, there's a lot of stuff packed into step one, but one of the things that's absolutely critical for me to remember, the primary thing, the thing that step one is trying to tell me before it tells me anything else, is I believe my own lies. I believe my own lies. I didn't need to admit to my ex-wife that I was an addict. I truly didn't need to do that. I didn't need to tell my 3-year-old daughter that I had a drug problem. She knew it. She knew I was sick. And there was this stuff that made me better. I didn't need to tell any employer I ever had. I didn't need to tell my neighbors. They all knew I was an addict. I didn't need to tell Cousin Ricky. He knew it. Everybody knew I was an addict. I mean, people along the way tried to help me. You know, my mom tried to help me. You know, Steve, if you just start using after 6 o'clock, you'd probably be okay. PM she was talking about. I thought she meant AM. What did I know? And other people, employers would pull me aside and say, let me help you here. And I would okey-doke them, and you don't understand, and you don't get it, and because I'm different. And if you love to use the way I love to use, you'd understand why I did the things I did. Nobody did, except for my partner. I had a partner, and I'm going to talk about my partner for a minute. I had a partner, his name was Steve. It wasn't an imaginary person, it really was a guy named Steve. I know what you're thinking. Another illusion, another paranoid illusion. No, he was real. Steve was real, and we were partners. He had the same appetite for the drug as I did, and he would get. One time we were sitting at his dining room table, and he was busy. Steve was the guy who did all the work. He did all the cutting up and weighing and bagging and all that stuff, and I was like, it was like, did you ever see that cartoon with the it's kind of like a play off of anyways, there's the little guy who's the really smart guy, and then there's the big oaf that's kind of like George and whoever it was, and it's off of one of Steinbeck's. Anyways, I was the oaf, and Steve was the guy doing all the work, and I'd be, are we ready yet? Are we ready yet? Are we ready yet? Are we ready yet? We're ready now. Are we ready now? Are we ready now? Can I do it now? Can I do it now? Are you ready yet? Is that ours? Is that ours? That was me. And we were sitting at his dining room table one time, and he just got so frustrated and upset with me, he picked up a dining room chair and smashed it over my back to try and get me to shut up. It wasn't funny then either. It's okay. It hurt. But we were partners, and when he got shipped off to treatment, I didn't know what treatment was back then. I thought they dressed you in pajamas, locked you in a house, and did shit to you. He packed up all of his paraphernalia and gave it to me, and I was the one who took care of it, because he could trust me for that, And there were things that we depended on for one another, if we needed cigarettes at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd go get them. If he was the guy who kept us in beer, and we had responsibilities. But if Steve wasn't paying attention and he left his bag on the table, I'd steal it without hesitation, without question, without thought. And if I wasn't looking, he'd take mine. And the way I describe it is that's the code of conduct that we live by. That was the foundation of our relationship. The fact that we both love to use, and he was the first guy that I knew personally that kind of disappeared off the earth for a little while and then showed up again. He'd gone into some facility somewhere. He worked for the mines, and they discovered that, like me, he had a drug problem, and he disappeared and then showed up again, and I treated him like a leper because I didn't know what it was like until he was like, "Let's get loaded." And, Steve's back. Okay, we're good. Anyways, I don't know why I'm telling you about Steve, but he's dead. He died. He died in 1988, alone in a room by himself. The way we die, lonely, isolated, unemployable, and sad, because he was a good guy. Steve was a good guy. The adventure quit being the adventure. Life really wasn't much of anything. My world just kept on getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until I was in the basement of that old farmhouse. I had this one little 10 by 12 room that had a window in the corner, but I had that blacked out with some old garbage can liners because I didn't want to know if it was night or day. And my best days back then was in that room with the door closed, with bag. That's where I wanted to be, and that was bliss. And and then a point in time came when Diane, my ex-wife, said, "You got to go. You got to go. I've had enough. I can't do this anymore." And it wasn't that pleasant or that easy, but I did. I left, and I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I went to a detox, and I didn't want to get clean. I didn't know what clean was. I didn't want to detox. I just didn't have anywhere else to go, and so that's where I went. And everybody else was telling me I had a drug problem, but I still just knew that there was a way that I could use successfully. And I couldn't imagine life without drugs, is the truth. I couldn't imagine life without drugs. I was scared. So I end up in this treatment center, and you showed up. Who does H&I? Raise your hand if you do H&I. Have you ever been on an H&I panel? Yeah, that's right. Give them people a hand. One of my favorite tasks is to go to the local detox. We got a detox at the treatment center, a big treatment center, a little detox, and they march them in, and they got their blue pajamas on, and their paper slippers, or their flip flops, and there's always a guy in the back of the room with greasy hair and and some shit mustache, and who's desperately in need of a shower. Hitting on a girl who's trying to look as cool as she can, that is in real need of dental work, and those are our people, those are future leaders of Narcotics Anonymous right there. That's right. And they try to pretend like they're not listening because listening's cool. Listening isn't cool, and I go in, and I'm always the happiest guy in the room. No matter how bad my day is, when I go into that detox, I'm always the happiest guy in the room. And you know why I'm the happiest guy in the room? Because I was the guy in the paper slippers and that needed to shower, and I was miserable. I was hopeless. I was scared. I had no idea. I felt like I was crawling away, trying to escape, and I was trying to escape this life, this tiny little life of desperation and disappointment. And I had no idea really what I was doing was entering in to a world that you were going to show me that opened up broader than anything I could ever imagine. And that's really where it started. That it started there in that detox when they came in with that panel. And, they left that night, and I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, there's people like me and Steve who find a way to stop using. And then they took us to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. A regular Narcotics, they put us in one of those white vans. They got white vans up here. They take kids, they take them in treatment, They take the treatment center people in white vans. I don't know why they pick white vans, but they always pick white vans. Anyways, yeah, it's the surrender van. I never thought of that. It's the surrender van. That's what it is. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Some people call them the druggy buggy. The surrender van. I like that. Did I ever tell you about the yellow key tag? No, let me see if I save that one for later. Anyways, we show up to the Double Bubble group, one of the oldest groups in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and there's a guy standing at the door, and his name is Duncan. And Duncan welcomed me to his home group. Welcomed us. Was welcoming everybody that night. He was the greeter. And he gave us a hug and welcomed us to his home group. And I got to tell you, just that much, it took the edge off. Just that much, it made me a little less want to jump out of my skin. Just that much, it made me not want to run away. And boy, what a lesson I learned. What a lesson I learned. I mean, it took a while to really develop the complexity of what he taught me that night, because there's so many facets to it. But today, 30 years later, if you come to Newhall, California on Thursday night at 7:30, used to be 8 o'clock, now it's 7:30. We're getting a little old out there, and we like to be in bed at the right time, you know. Of course, not my wife. My wife's not getting old, honey. You're not old. I'm on the door. I'm on the door, and every week when I post up on the door, I take a minute, a second. And I think about Duncan. You know, he taught me the value of welcoming somebody to my home group, and it gives them, hopefully, it takes the edge off for them like it did for me, just a little bit, just enough to make it a little bit more comfortable. And they don't have to walk all the way across the room, because we got a big room and we meet on the one side of the room, so they have to walk all the way across the room to actually get to the chairs. I'm certain that walk across the room isn't quite as hard once somebody's greeted them at the door. I hope so. The other thing is, it makes me feel the same as them. You know, I have this horrible thing that goes on inside of my head that says, I ain't good enough. I ain't good enough. If you knew me like I knew me, you wouldn't let me be here. You know, it's the old Groucho Marx line. I would never have somebody like me be a member of my club. It's not exactly the way it goes, but you get the point. We got this, you know, self-obsession has a couple of different components to them, and one of them is this feeling of never being enough. And when I am the greeter at my home group, I'm enough. I feel equal to you, and you know, we feel the same. And then there's the issue of legacy. You know, that you know, I carry forward Duncan's legacy, and we all do that. We all, you know, we have sponsorship, and sponsorship is all about legacy. I carry coin. I'm a little emotional. I carry the coin from my sponsors. My sponsor's name was Steve. A lot of good Steves in Narcotics now. Every once in a while I'll do the Steve pull. Hey, how many Steves are in the room? Any other Steve? Holy shit. Oh, thank God. Ooh, man, thought I was going to have to leave for a second. Whew. Man, I've never been to a one Steve meeting. It's a 3 Steve meeting you're at tonight, and maybe more. I don't know. Anyways, I carry his legacy. I pick up this medallion every morning and stick it in my pocket, and just for a second, I think about Steve. I think about Victor all the time. Victor is one of the guys that was on that detox that night. And one of the cool things about Victor was, you know, my clean date's August 3rd of 1986. Victor's clean date was August 2nd in 1985. So for about 15 years while I was in Pittsburgh in recovery, I got to get up once a year, and there was the guy who delivered the message of Narcotics Anonymous that night to me in that detox, standing next to me getting his coin. And he used to give me his old one. And legacy. We touch one another around here in so many ways. And then the other piece is what we do in meetings. We come there and we share with one another. Strangers in every way, really. I mean, maybe home group members, we know one another, but most of you people have never seen me and I've never seen you. And as much as I'm sharing with you tonight, I know you'd share with me. And we may never see each other again, ever. But for a minute, we touch one another. We make ourselves available to hear. We make ourselves vulnerable to share. And then we go on about our lives. I mean, I just think that's fucking beautiful. It's just beautiful. From a guy who was locked up desperately self. Has anybody got a basic text handy? There's a passage in the basic text in the How It Works that talks about the prisons we build for ourselves out of fear and loneliness. I can't remember exactly. It's the part of the How It Works between the How It Works reading that we do in the meetings in the beginning of the first step. There's a paragraph in there that talks about prisons of isolation that we build for ourselves, and that's what I did. That's what we do. And then we come here and we're able to touch one another and carry around pieces of each other's spirit really for the rest of our lives. And I just love that part of what we do here in NA. I didn't know you guys were the gift. I mean, I got the whole deal about stop using, use the desire to use and find a new way to live. And, if it stopped there, that was plenty enough. That was way more than lose the desire to use. You got to be kidding me. That was beyond the ability to understand when I first got here, but it's happened for me. And then find a new way to live. That has happened. But then, to have the opportunity to connect with all of you, it's just wasn't expecting that part. And this last year, let me see where I'm at. This last year, I sponsored some guys, and two of them, each for different reasons, have, with over 25 years clean. Guys I've known and sponsored for years and years and years have decided to stop being members of Narcotics Anonymous. And, they're not out there robbing banks and, stopping traffic with a handgun naked. I have one sponsee who did that, by the way. Thought that was a fundraising endeavor he did. He had socks on. He likes to remind me he had socks on. Marco, you were naked. And I just remembered I did something very similar, actually. Nevertheless, these guys checked out. I mean, these are guys that, we did step work together. I mean, we did conventions. We were brothers in recovery. And they decided that, that this wasn't for them anymore after 25 years. Look, we all get to make our own choices around here. Life provides us that opportunity to make our own choices. And I don't know if the choices were right or wrong for them. I mean, I suspect that they wouldn't be right for me, but, that's their choice. But what I do know is both of them describe a life that is a life without Narcotics Anonymous, a life without NA, a life without all of you. I might as well be back in the basement of the farmhouse, guys. I mean, one of the unforeseen gifts I got around here was the ability to be a part of a society, of a fellowship. People I care for who care for me. I show up places and people are happy to see me, or at least they act like it. And that's enough for me, because they weren't even acting like it back then. John wasn't happy, that's for sure. And so let me real quick, somebody's got the traditions book in this room. Somebody in this room got hold up the traditions book if you got it. I wanted to do this real quick. That's the new book, Our Guiding Principles. I just want to take a step. That's right. Okay, here we go. You're hearing it first. Unity changes us. When we rise above our differences, we start to understand who we are, how we fit, how much we have to offer the world. The degradation of addiction robs us of self-respect. The care and respect we show each other in Narcotics Anonymous reminds us our own value and humility. The experience of unity restores us to dignity. That's a portion of the Guiding Principles text. The first tradition reminds me that, well, by the way, the steps are an effort to help me do things I'm not inclined to do. I'm not inclined to be honest with myself. That's why I need a first step. I lie to myself, and I believe my lies. I mean, the most outlandish lies, and I believe them. Like I said, sell 2 and keep 5. Or was it keep 5 and sell 2? I don't remember. Anyways, even today, 30 years in recovery, I will lie to myself and believe it. The steps are an effort to help me do things I'm not inclined to do. Help me to do things I'm not inclined to do. The traditions are an effort to help me avoid things I am inclined to do. They're an effort to help me avoid things I am inclined to do. And you know one of the things I'm inclined to do? You're going to find this hard to believe. I'm inclined to argue. I never met an addict that didn't like to argue. You know, I'll argue even if I know I'm wrong, just because, you know, I like a good fight. And you know, the traditions say it's not until we get involved in service until we point out that you're an asshole. I didn't really mean to say that, but I couldn't remember the rest of it, so that's the part I said. Actually, I was in West Virginia one time, and that's what they say. It's not until you get involved in service that someone points out that you're an asshole. And I said, you know what? They're right. Nobody ever called me that in my home group. Before, when I showed up at the ASC, because I like to fight. We like to fight. We fight a lot. And we have a tradition. What's the tradition tell us? It tells us unity is paramount. Unity is paramount. That's what it says in the Guiding Principles book. I used to think what was paramount was who's right. Who's right was always what was paramount. Or more importantly, who won. Who won. That was more, winning was more important than being right. And that tradition reminds me that being right isn't what's most important. Winning isn't what's most important. Unity is what's most important. And so I am inclined to fight. And I need a first tradition to remind me, don't fight. I need a first step to remind me, don't believe your lies. I need a second tradition to remind me other people might have some information. You know, I never listened to other people. Thank you very much. You don't know what you're talking about. I never recognized the fellowship of NA as a power greater than myself. And I didn't think marrying wife number 1 as wife number 3 was necessarily insane. I didn't think I needed to be restored to sanity. I never married wife number 3, by the way. I'm on wife number 2, and she's the last one. And in case you didn't know, I love my wife. You know, it's these simple lessons that maybe other people don't need them, but I do. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you do, because I hear the way you share in meetings too. And, you know, these things change my life. They change my life. They make it so that I can participate in the world. And, you know, and again, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know, I end up, you know, I'm a guy who quit going to school in 9th grade because it got in the way of getting loaded. And if something got in the way of getting high, it had to go. You know, my last job, I was a college professor. This is a guy who, you know, I needed to take remedial reading classes when I showed up at NA because We Do Recover was a little bit too much for me. You know, it was a reading level a couple of grades higher than the one I left. And it just keeps on getting better. You know, like Paul said, you know, I have the opportunity Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable to share about. I work at the World Service Office. I hate to say it, but I'm that Steve R. I apologize to anybody. I had an exchange with a woman the other day, and she said, it was an email exchange, and she said, when you're ready to do your next 9 step, you have my contact information. Yeah. Ouch. That one hurt. Anyways, it's a wonderful opportunity to serve, or to be a resource, not to serve. You guys serve. I'm an employee. I'm a 8th tradition, living, breathing special worker. And we get to stand behind you guys and gals as you open up NA meetings, as you deliver H&I panels, as you talk to inmates and they write us letters, as you engage with treatment centers and professionals who are looking to try and get meetings started, as you serve as regional delegates or RCMs or GSRs, as you do all that stuff that you do to carry forward the mission of Narcotics Anonymous, to carry the NA message. I get to stand behind. I get to be one of the people that stands behind you and be a resource for you. And what a humbling and a wonderful opportunity that is. I don't make no mistake. No matter what you hear from anybody, there's not one day that goes by that I'm not grateful. Every time I walk through that door, it's like picking up this coin from Steve. Every time I walk through that door, I'm grateful. I'm in touch with the work that you do for this fellowship, and I am so grateful I get to support you in that work. Thank you for that. Has it changed 170 times? Because they told me once it changes 170 times, I'm done. Has anybody been keeping track? I should have told you to count. Let me just check my list here, because sometimes yellow key tag. So the key tags have a color code to them, and there's different ones like orange is orange, you're glad you're at a meeting, and blue is don't be blue, go to a meeting, and the black one is actually black and gold. Those are Steeler colors, by the way, in case you weren't thinking. Oh, and Penguin colors. But no, that's not really true. But the yellow one is yellow. That's why they call it the yellow key tag, because it's yellow. And yellow stands for urine. Urine. You're in the right place when you're at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. That's right. Okay, let me do one more. Anybody new in their room, raise your hand. 30 days or less. 30 days or less, raise your hand. Woo! I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is there's a solution to your problem. The bad news is we're it. I just want to raise your hand if it's your first convention. Woo! Just because there's 10 gallons of coffee out on the floor doesn't mean you got to drink it all. Okay? Just because they got 150 Red Bulls over at the Starbucks doesn't mean you need to buy them all. Just because there's marathon meetings all night doesn't mean you're not supposed to sleep at some time this weekend. You can do all those things, many of us have, but that's not designed that way. But truly, welcome to the Canadian Convention of Narcotics Anonymous number 24. 24, yeah. Welcome to the adventures. Hang on tight, because it truly is quite a ride. And more than anything else, welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you.